Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to another Ranger Top. At this point, you pretty much all know why we're here, so let's get right to it as we count down the top 10 best Pink Rangers. Not really enough genuinely great Rangers in this category for a meaningful honorable mentions section, so I'll just throw Cat Hillard in the unofficial 11th spot and go from there. And, as always, let me know who you think are the best pink colored superheroes. With all that said, let's kick things off with number 10. Operation Overdrive. Rose has the awkward distinction of being part of a very underrated season. A season that's just fairly average by Ranger standards, but still inexplicably gets more flack than genuine laziness, but that's a whole other video. What makes Rose such a good Ranger is how her mind is perfect for the specific quest that Operation Overdrive faces. She's a very worldly person, and her knowledge of not just technology, but ancient civilizations, history, and how all of that factors into their search for the jewels of the Karone Aurora makes her the de facto most valuable member of a team that skills-wise is actually a bit more sensibly constructed than even Lightspeed Rescue. She doesn't have an overabundance of leadership qualities, but she is able to somewhat keep her team focused when 3 out of the 5 in particular get extra excited for their journeys around the world. Plus, she got to be a pirate. I'm just not sure there's an argument to be made against that. She was never given the same kind of depth compared to the Rangers just above her, but still, a solid start at number 10. Will test you. Better make it a Lightspeed Rescue. Lightspeed Rescue is a really solid season, and a big part of why that easily goes understated is the influence of their Pink Ranger. Dana has basically been preparing for the work Lightspeed Rescue had to do for most of her formative years because of her being Captain Mitchell's daughter. This manifests itself into some great character work that emphasizes and strengthens the relationship of the two. But what really makes Dana a top 10 Pink Ranger is her abilities as an individual, not just with her medical experience, but with the way she's able to take charge of situations even without the others. She shows great character even through trying tests, and it's easy to see that nepotism did not grant her that morpher. Skills did, and I like how they made it clear that Captain Mitchell doesn't and never did just see her as his little girl, but as a vital part of the team. Most, if not all, of the best Rangers can embrace unique, nuanced, or interesting characteristics that also feel genuine because the actor or actress portraying said Ranger plays the role so well. Enter Vida, Rocca, a zany, energetic DJ who takes action before doing anything else. Angie Diaz plays this part with such enthusiasm and such heart, but she also doesn't shortchange you when it comes to the more emotionally laden storylines. Vida goes through so much as a character, but you never have to question what her outlook is, because whether it's stopping a monster or saving a monster, she always wears her heart on her sleeve. And Mystic Force effectively uses the powerful story arcs within it to convey the layers of such a unique character, who also has an equally unique way of relating to everyone on her team, including the one actually related to her. There may be better Rangers out there, but few are as memorable as V. The best aspects of Karone involve the journey she took to get to where she is from where she was. Her conversion from Astronema might not necessarily make her a better Pink Ranger, but it does make her a better character, and that's more important. As a Ranger, they did the smartest possible thing by giving her that specific hurdle to overcome before she could fully integrate with her new team. It proved once and for all that her legacy as the Princess of Evil was behind her, and she was ready to take on the task of actually defending the universe now. It wasn't just a great character arc, it was a great way to connect both space-themed seasons in the aftermath of having connected them in the best possible way. But Karone then proves to be more than just a feel-good story. She proves her worth through the way she's able to connect to the others. All of them know the void that was left behind when the unthinkable happened, and to her credit, Karone doesn't just play stand-in here, she actually makes positive impacts, namely on Leo and Damon. It was a tough ask, but when the galaxy needed a new Pink Ranger, Karone was there to answer the call. Milestones are a pretty cool thing in the Ranger world, and I think there is significance to having the first African-American Pink Ranger. It wouldn't mean as much, however, if she wasn't such a great character and a breath of fresh air as far as Pink Rangers go. From the very first episode, you could tell that she wanted to be taken more seriously and eventually worked to earn that level of recognition and respect. She starts off as freaked out as any normal person would be by the threat the Rangers are faced with, but grows more emboldened with each new step. It's pretty rare of the more recent Ranger seasons that characters are allowed to grow in such a natural and methodical way, but that's really what we get here from Shelby. Over the course of Dino Charge and Dino Supercharge, she embraces mental toughness, emotional toughness, and more traditional toughness as she meets every challenge she faces head on and never once wavers. There are more than a few lackluster Rangers that sort of just accept whatever role they have on the team, but Shelby constantly steps up to do more and proves to be one of the more effective members on a very large team. Shelby is easily one of the single greatest things to come out of the Neo Saban era to this point, because she talks the talk, but always backs up those words through action. Cassie is a really fun character. All she wanted to do was sing for a living when she took that bus to Angel Grove, but Destiny had a different plan. But frankly, I think her ascension from aspiring singer to actual superhero makes her journey much more interesting. She's not your prototypical hero type. In fact, she's reluctant to square off against danger initially. But that's more realistic as a character introduction. She can be silly, she can be funny, but when it really matters, she can also be counted on. Cassie grows into the kind of compassionate soul and driven person that isn't just willing to fight against evil, but is also willing to defend the things she cares the most about. So much so that even after she literally helped save the universe, she was willing to step up and do it all over again in the aftermath of the Power of Pink. She felt so guilty about what happened, even though it wasn't her fault, that she was ready and willing to step into the role of Galaxy Pink, which would have actually happened if not for some off-screen issues getting a proper deal together. But if she did stay on Terra Venture, she would have had no trouble fitting in with the others and contributing to the team, and seeing her fight with that chip on her shoulder would have definitely lended itself to even more great character moments in a season filled with nothing but, especially since we already know that angry Cassie is a whole other level of angry. But that would also eliminate Karone's involvement, so kind of a toss-up, I guess. Cassie may never be the first one you think of when it comes to donning the pink, but in my mind, she's a Ranger legend. Let's get this part out of the way now. Yes, I know that Alyssa is technically a White Ranger, but she didn't really fit on any other list, so I'm putting her here. Calling Alyssa a better, less on-the-nose version of Emma would probably be an apt description, but she's so much more than that. The Power Rangers are no strangers to balancing academics with hero duty, but the way they portray this balance through Alyssa works a lot better than most. Case in point, her teammates mostly put whatever they were doing prior to becoming Rangers on hold, while Alyssa found a way to be a successful college student and a Ranger at the same time. The best part about this detail is the way it's presented, because Alyssa as a character isn't one of the more common Ranger geniuses. She is smart, yes, but she's more kind-hearted and diligent than anything else, and manages her time very well to make the best out of both her worlds. So it's not really a surprise that she's the one both caring and resourceful enough to start unraveling the mystery that is Cole's parents. And these aren't trivial details either, because the Power Rangers are always people first. So creating a Ranger that goes about her business as if it was an extra important part-time job makes her more of a role model than any Ranger who's just good for a punch or two. But it goes even deeper than that, because Wild Force as a season wisely roots all of that discipline into her relationship with her father, as well as effectively conveying the depths of their relationship through just a single episode. Lesser seasons would have you believe that simple characters can't be good characters, but Alyssa is one of the all-time best in part because she's really not all that complicated. She is layered, but the best parts about her are easy to see, and that made for an incredible Ranger. No prizes for guessing that the original Pink Ranger would find her way somewhere high on this list. Kimberly, just like many Ranger greats, proves to be a great deal more than just her Valley Girl persona or being every 90s kid's first superhero crush except mine, but we'll get there. She does start off that way, but with 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin, the layers slowly get peeled back. She proves on many occasions to be witty, astute, and personable, even in less than ideal circumstances. She develops a kind-hearted personality that fosters her passion for teaching, mentoring the youth, and being an all-around better friend. Heck, she even uses sign language to help teach a student with a disability. What other Ranger can claim that? She's also a uniquely realized fighter among the team because of her gymnastics background. This is something Power Rangers as a series usually gets very right. From Ziggy to Maya and even Jaden to a degree, the list goes on. This franchise is very good at taking individuals and figuring out how their fighting would most likely diverge from that of others given their most definitive traits. Several episodes have Kim embracing that philosophy, utilizing her particular skills to at times outmaneuver her opponents more so than overpower them. And just like with Ashley and Andros when we talked about them, Tommy's presence strengthens Kimberly as a character because they're allowed moments to just be. It never plays itself as overly dramatic or too heavily romantic. It's just two people getting to know each other better most of the time, and that aspect really works. There hasn't been a ton of power transfers, but Kim had one of the best, because even presented with the chance to follow her gymnastic dream, she always thought about the Ranger team first. It's only after Zordon and the others support her aspirations that she feels ready to move on to the next chapter in her life. A storybook ending for one of the greatest to ever do it. Okay, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I haven't the slightest clue how to handle this entry, and don't worry, poetry is not incoming. I won't put you all through that again. But how do you do it? How do you properly describe someone who made you love Power Rangers? Not just the Megazords, not just the toys, not just the fights, but really, truly love it. The one Ranger that made all of those elements seem meaningless compared to the characters and who they were, what they were doing, why they mattered. How do you capture the essence of someone who made you believe in heroes when everyone else already had theirs? Honestly, I don't know, and maybe I just can't, but that won't stop me from trying. Every moment from the first time she was introduced to her season finale revival proved that Kendrix was a special Ranger. Just like Kai and Damon, Kendrix was able to be a more complete character than most, in part through her profession, in her case, as a scientist. And the perfect part about that characterization is how it's never ever used as an excuse to make her some hyperlogical machine, or marginalize her for being a woman in a predominantly male field. A big part of why Kendrix is so great is because she's not just good at her job, but it always feels like she wants to be there, excited by the possibilities, the discoveries, and the adventures that being on Terra Venture will create. Andros and the Space Rangers introduced me to the Final Frontier way back when, but Kendrix is a big reason I ended up loving it, and as a direct result, loving other shows about it. It's a personal accolade she shares with Leo, whose wide-eyed wonderment of the great beyond is on even bigger display throughout the series, which is a big thing that connects the two during the journey. And even with all of that, she's never a pushover. She tries to make a positive connection with everyone she meets, including the Magna Defender before he changes for the better, and more than anything else, she understands the most important aspect of heroism: sacrifice. Every single Ranger risks their lives to save the world, or several worlds, but few can say they gave it up for that same goal, and willingly gave it up at that, making the active choice to destroy the Savage Sword, knowing what it would cost, and likely saving countless lives in the process. The in-show heroics are made all the more emotionally jarring, knowing that the reasoning behind all of this was Valerie Vernon fighting an off-screen battle against leukemia, a battle she thankfully won, and she's still as vibrant as ever to this very day, also making her one of the few Rangers that can be called a genuine inspiration in and out of character. I always try my hardest to make clear distinctions between what I feel and what I think, but in the case of this one particular Ranger, that separation is impossible. But maybe that's okay this time. Maybe it's okay that this entry is at least as guided by heart as it is by mind. Maybe it's okay that there will always be more to say, more than I can possibly express in a single video or a single countdown. Maybe it's okay that in my arduous quest for the perfect description of why Kendrix means so much to me, that I may never find such perfection, but she's perfect to me. And maybe that's all that really needs to be said. But having said all of that, I think it's pretty clear to most of us that there's really only one sensible pick for the best Pink Ranger ever, even if I wouldn't claim to love her as much, mainly because she could also legitimately be called one of the best Rangers, period. Jen is a rare breed of Ranger, which is to say, there's no other Ranger like her. Think about the Pink Rangers that came before her and after. Most of them great characters, great heroes, but how many of them led their team on top of that? There's only one. And it's actually a little embarrassing that in the Ranger world, it took a team from the very distant future to finally deliver a capable female leader. or at least one who stayed on the good side throughout. And that's nothing against Wes, he's a great ranger, but he doesn't really lead until much later on after Jen mellows out a bit and trusts him more. But even then, this is Jen's team first and foremost. Everything about stopping Rancic is tied to the fact that he almost kills Alex, who Jen gets engaged to in the first episode. But Jen assumes he died before his return later on, so it becomes her primary motivation to see every mutant brought to justice. Her unmatched toughness and fierceness and focus make her not just the greatest female ranger that ever lived, but it also makes her one of the best leaders of all time. And her team is a little all over the place in terms of focus, so they really needed her to be that commanding figure in the battle against Rancic. And through it all, she's always striving to improve, she's always proactive, she's always trying to get things done, and rightfully choose people out for screwing up. But even for as badass as she is, the central Time Force theme of changing your destiny applies to her as well, in a less pronounced way. We know that Wes and Eric and even Rancic himself embody that narrative, but with her, it was a very deliberate and gradual process. She doesn't change completely, but her stance on certain things and on certain people do get modified in sensible ways. And the best part about all of that is, again, it's never abrupt or rushed, it's well developed over the course of the series. A lot of credit has to go to Erin Cahill and her beautifully nuanced portrayal of a troubled ranger that had to go through a lot more than most in her fight to save the world. Every time she's tested with a new challenge from the forces of evil, even when one of those challenges is a former Time Force officer, you can see how much succeeding means to her, and through overcoming her past on multiple fronts, she's able to help secure a better, brighter future. And, in the process, she became one of the all-time greatest rangers. Jen is number 1, so the list is done. And of course, thanks for watching.